The human body is a disaster of a survival machine. No claws, no venom, no armor. Our top running speed wouldn't save us from a determined dog. We sleep on the ground for 8 hours every night. We are slow, we are loud, and we travel in small groups across open terrain. By every biological measure, we are exactly what a predator would design if it wanted the perfect prey. And for most of life's history on this planet, the things hunting at the top of the food chain were so far beyond anything we could outrun or outlast that it is genuinely hard to explain why we are here at all. The answer is timing. We arrived late, and what we missed, by margins sometimes as thin as a few 100,000 years, was a collection of animals so extreme that the entire story of human civilization would look completely different if they had still been here. This is the story of the predators we never met. And the more you learn about what they actually were, the more that timing starts to feel less like luck and more like the only reason you exist. Start with the ocean, because the ocean, for most of Earth's history, was not somewhere anything resembling a human could survive near. Megalodon is the one everyone knows. The name, the teeth, the rough size estimates that turn up in documentaries. But the numbers almost never land with the weight they deserve. Each individual tooth was the size of a human hand. Its jaw opening has been estimated at roughly 10 feet across, wide enough to take 2 adult humans side by side in a single bite without slowing down. The bite force has been calculated at somewhere between 40,000 and 100,000 pounds per square inch. For comparison, a great white shark produces around 4,000. Megalodon was not a larger version of what we fear today. It was something operating in an entirely different category of lethality, and it hunted whales, not small whales, whales the size of modern humpbacks. It targeted them the way a lion targets a gazelle, but Megalodon at least stayed in the water. What makes the prehistoric record truly unsettling is how many of these animals lived on land, or at the edge between land and water, which is exactly where early humans always lived. Sarcosuchus imperator, a crocodilian that reached 40 feet long and weighed around 17,000 pounds. A large modern saltwater crocodile, the animal responsible for more human deaths each year than almost any other predator on Earth, reaches about 17 feet and 2,000 pounds. Sarcosuchus had twice the length and 8 times the mass. Its skull alone was 6 feet, from end to end. Modern crocodiles are already so effective at ambushing prey at the waterline that researchers treat river crossings in certain regions as statistically dangerous today. What Sarcosuchus did to anything approaching a riverbank needed no sophisticated hunting strategy. It simply needed to be there. And here is something almost nobody talks about. Argentavis magnificens, a bird. A flying bird with a wingspan of up to 23 feet, making it the largest flying animal ever found in the fossil record. It weighed around 160 pounds, heavier than many adult humans. It soared on thermal currents above South America roughly 6 million years ago, when our ancestors were already walking upright in Africa. Its beak was large enough and hooked sharply enough that researchers believe it swallowed prey whole rather than tearing it apart. The prey it went after were large mammals crossing open grassland below it. Here is the detail that stays with you. A wingspan of 23 feet means a shadow of 23 feet moving fast across open ground. For an early hominin crossing open savanna with no tree cover, that shadow arriving overhead without warning would have been the last thing they processed before impact. There's no outrunning something dropping from above at hunting speed. There's no cover on open grassland. There's only what happens next. Purussaurus brasiliensis, another crocodilian, this one from Amazonian South America, roughly 8 million years ago, 41 feet long, bite force that in some calculations exceeded even Megalodon, estimated at over 70,000 pounds per square inch. It did not wait patiently at the water's edge the way modern crocodiles do. It moved actively through shallow floodplains, hunting the large mammals that came to drink. Everything that lived near fresh water in its world was on the menu, and fresh water was never optional for any human population that ever lived. But the most quietly disturbing animal on this list is not the largest. Thylacosmilus atrox. It looked like a big cat, roughly the size of a modern jaguar. But it was not a cat at all. It was a marsupial, more closely related to a wombat than to any lion or leopard, that had independently evolved saber teeth, so extreme they extended below the animal's closed jaw and had to be protected by flanged bone sheaths on its lower mandible. The sabers grew continuously throughout its entire life and had no limit. In older individuals they reached lengths that made the skull look structurally impossible, like something assembled from the wrong parts. What makes Thylacosmilus genuinely unsettling is the timing. It went extinct around 3 million years ago. The Homo lineage began around 2.8 million years ago. 200,000 years separated their world from ours. In geological terms, that is nothing. In practical terms, it means that the first members of our genus and this animal were breathing the same air on the same planet at the same time. Whether they ever encountered each other is still debated. What is not debated is how that encounter would have ended. And then there's the one that almost certainly did overlap with modern humans. Gigantopithecus blacki, the largest primate that ever lived, standing somewhere between 9 and 10 feet tall and weighing over 1,000 pounds. It lived in South and Southeast Asia and went extinct somewhere between 100,000 and 300,000 years ago. Homo sapiens emerged around 300,000 years ago and was already moving through the same regions. Most accounts describe Gigantopithecus as a herbivore and stop there, as if herbivore means safe. A silverback gorilla is a herbivore. It has a bite force of 1,300 pounds per square inch, can bend steel bars, and responds to perceived threats with charges of explosive, bone-breaking force. Gigantopithecus was 6 times the mass of a gorilla. Whatever happened when a group of early humans wandered into its territory was not a negotiation, and there's fossil evidence suggesting it did not simply retreat. There are signs this animal was already under ecological pressure and stress when humans arrived. A massive, food-stressed primate and a small group of unfamiliar upright competitors sharing the same forest. That situation has a predictable outcome, and it does not favor the smaller party. What every animal on this list shares is not just size or killing power. It is geography. Each of them lived in the specific places that humans require. Riverbanks, open grassland, coastal forest, shallow floodplains, not the deep ocean or the frozen poles, the exact territories that any human population needs to survive. And each of them was doing something at those locations that left no room for a slow, clawless, thin-skinned primate to exist alongside them. The human story is almost always told as a story of dominance, intelligence beating nature, fire and tools and language conquering a wild world. But the fossil record tells a different version. One where the most important factor in human survival was not what we invented or discovered or figured out. It was that certain things were already gone before we got there, gone by just enough time to leave the rivers, the grasslands, and the forests empty, gone just far enough ahead of us to make the world something a creature like us could actually live in. We did not inherit the earth because we were the strongest thing on it. We inherited it because the strongest things left just before we arrived.